Stellantis is also seeking white-collar volunteers who are ready to call it quits. And the cost-cutting measures don't stop there. The company now has its eyes on shutting down a testing facility in Arizona by the end of the year.
Imagine this Jeep, the brand that built its legacy on rugged off-road dominance and American toughness, just made a move so unexpected that it's sending shockwaves through the entire auto industry. For decades, Jeep has been the dependable rock in Stellantis lineup, a symbol of freedom on four wheels, the go-to choice for those who wanted adventure without compromise. But now, Jeep has dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming. This isn't just another new model launch, or a minor facelift, or some gimmicky marketing stunt.
And capability, comments such as, "Is it really a true Jeep?" have often been made.
Know what Jeep just revealed has the potential to change how we look at SUVs, how automakers fight for market share, and even how the entire industry moves forward from this point on. Rivals are scrambling, investors are panicking, and consumers are left wondering if this is the turning point that reshapes the future of cars altogether. What's even more fascinating is the timing. The auto market is already walking on thin ice. Interest rates are high, EV demand is slowing in key markets, and legacy automakers are being forced to choose between doubling down on combustion engines or going all in on electrification. And right when uncertainty is at its peak, Jeep has decided to shake the entire table. The kind of shake that makes Ford, GM, Toyota, and even Tesla look over their shoulders. Industry insiders are whispering that this could be the most radical shift Jeep has made since it first transitioned from being a military icon to a global SUV powerhouse. And the most chilling part? The move Jeep just made isn't just about selling cars, it's about survival. Because here's the truth. Jeep has been quietly losing ground. Sales of the Wrangler and Cherokee aren't what they used to be. Competition in the SUV space has become brutal, and newer players like Rivian, BYD, and even Hyundai are carving out chunks of the market Jeep once dominated. For a brand that thrived on loyalty and tradition, standing still wasn't an option. Jeep needed a game changer, and now they've pulled the trigger on something so bold. It's making even Tesla's wildest announcements look tame. But here's where it gets even more jaw-dropping. Jeep didn't just announce a product, they revealed a strategy that turns the old playbook upside down. And the way they're framing it, this isn't just about appealing to the Jeep faithful, it's about redefining what the SUV of the future looks like. Rivals are calling it reckless. Analysts are calling it visionary. And buyers? They're caught in the suspense, waiting to see if Jeep's gamble will be a revolution or a disaster. And here's where everything comes into focus. Jeep just unveiled what they're calling their most disruptive shift in decades. A lineup overhaul that blends radical electrification with aggressive pricing in a way nobody expected. Forget the slow, careful rollouts other automakers have been attempting. Jeep isn't dipping its toes into the water. They're diving headfirst with models that combine plug-in hybrid range-extending tech, fully electric platforms, and even a new combustion strategy for markets not ready to make the EV leap. In one stake, the new Wagoneer S, for example. On paper, it looks like Jeep's EV play against Tesla's Model Y and Rivian's R1S. But what caught everyone off guard wasn't just the sleek design or the premium interior, it was the performance and pricing. Jeep claims it'll deliver over 600 horsepower, a blistering 0 to 60 time under 3.5 seconds, and a range that flirts with 400 miles. And then came the real kicker: the price point is shockingly lower than analysts predicted, undercutting Tesla by thousands while packing more features. That alone was enough to rattle Wall Street. But Jeep didn't stop there. They also revealed updates to the Wrangler 4Z, which has already become the best-selling plug-in hybrid in America. But instead of resting on that success, Jeep doubled down with longer electric range, faster charging, and an even more aggressive push into urban markets. It's no longer just the Wrangler for hardcore off-road enthusiasts, it's now being marketed as the ultimate dual-purpose machine, eco-friendly for city commuters and unstoppable for adventure seekers. This hybrid dominance threatens Toyota's RAV4, Prime, and Ford's plug-in Escape, in a way nobody thought Jeep would dare attempt. But here's where the bombshell gets even. Bigger Jeep announced that they'll be rolling out a global electrification strategy tailored to each region. In the US, they'll lean on hybrids and EVs. In Europe, full electrics will dominate the push. And in markets like South America and parts of Asia, Jeep will still offer efficient combustion and hybrid models. This flexibility gives Jeep a massive advantage over automakers stuck pushing a one-size-fits-all strategy. And while this announcement stunned the industry, it also raised urgent questions. Can Jeep actually pull this off without collapsing under the weight of production costs? Can Stellantis scale battery production fast enough to meet demand? And perhaps most importantly, will Jeep's loyal fanbase embrace this transformation or reject it as a betrayal of everything the brand has stood for? And the reactions from Jeep's rivals have been nothing short of explosive. Behind closed doors, Ford executives are reportedly scrambling to reassess their Bronco strategy. The Bronco was Ford's golden ticket to stealing Jeep's thunder, but with Jeep's aggressive electrification push and the pricing of the Wagoneer S, the Bronco suddenly looks outdated. Analysts are already saying that unless Ford drastically cuts prices or unveils a hybrid Bronco soon, the model could lose its momentum faster than anyone expected. Imagine the shock inside Ford's boardrooms when they realized that Jeep, a brand many thought was falling behind, just leapfrogged them in the very segment they thought they had cornered. Then there's GM. The company is still struggling to roll out its Ultium platform at scale. And with Chevy's Blazer EV plagued by delays and recalls, Jeep's announcement couldn't have come at a worse time. Investors know it. 2GM stock wobbled the moment Jeep dropped its bombshell. Some insiders are whispering that Jeep's boldness could expose GM's fragile EV strategy, especially since GM is banking so heavily on electrification without the hybrid safety net Jeep is smartly leveraging. Toyota, on the other hand, is watching cautiously. They've been the king of hybrids for over 2 decades, and the RAV for Prime was supposed to be their ace in the SUV market. But Jeep's updated Wrangler for Z threatens to eat into that dominance by offering not just efficiency, but an emotional appeal. Rugged, adventurous, and unmistakably Jeep, Toyota has been criticized for dragging its feet on full EVs, and now Jeep's multi-layered approach makes Toyota look like it's playing it to safe. For the first time in years, Toyota doesn't look like the untouchable giant it looks like it could actually be vulnerable. And of course, we can't ignore Tesla. Elon Musk has long dismissed legacy automakers as being too slow, too risk-averse to ever compete with Tesla's innovation. But Jeep's Wagoneer S announcement felt like a direct challenge to Tesla's dominance in the midsize EV SUV market. Jeep isn't trying to copy Tesla's minimalism, it's going after Tesla's customers with something Tesla doesn't offer: brand heritage, rugged identity, and a vehicle that promises both luxury and adventure. If Jeep delivers on its claims, it could lure buyers who always admired Tesla's range and speed but wanted something with more personality and off-road credibility. All of this has sparked one unavoidable question across the entire industry. Did Jeep just ignite the next auto war? Because what we're seeing here isn't just another product launch, it's a trigger moment. If Jeep's strategy succeeds, it will force every major automaker to respond, whether they're ready or not. Prices could drop across the board. Hybrids could see a massive resurgence, and EV development timelines might get slashed in half just to keep up. The market is shaking not because Jeep played it safe, but because Jeep decided to take the kind of risk that terrifies boardrooms but excites consumers. Consumers, as expected, are split right down the middle. On one hand, Jeep loyalists, the ones who've owned Wranglers for decades and see their vehicle as more than just transportation, are nervous. Some see electrification as a betrayal of Jeep's DNA. They're asking questions like, can an electric Jeep still crawl over rocks in Moab? Can it survive the mud, the water, the snow? These die-hard fans worry. Wall Street, though, has been much more cautious. Investors love bold moves when they pay off, but they hate risk, and Jeep's announcement screams risk. The question hovering over trading floors is simple: can Stellantis bankroll this transformation without imploding? Stellantis has the scale, with brands like Ram, Dodge, and Peugeot under its wing, but it also has enormous costs and complex supply chains. Ramping up battery production, securing rare earth materials, and building out charging infrastructure isn't cheap. And while Jeep is promising aggressive pricing, analysts are wondering where those margins will come from. Some predict that Stellantis will be forced to eat billions in losses upfront, betting that market dominance will come later. That's a dangerous gamble in an industry where even giants like GM and Ford have stumbled. But the bigger fear isn't just money, it's execution. Because Jeep has made promises before. We've seen bold concepts that never hit the showroom floor. We've heard timelines that slipped, features that got cut, or products that didn't live up to the hype. So when Jeep says 600 horsepower, For 100 miles of range and sub $70,000 pricing, investors want proof. And if even one of those promises falls short, rivals will pounce, customers will feel misled, and the brand's credibility could take a hit that no marketing campaign can fix. Still, there's a reason the entire industry is shaking right now. If Jeep pulls this off, it changes the rules for everybody. It shows that heritage brands can evolve without losing their soul, that rugged and eco-friendly can coexist, and that consumers don't have to pick between capability and conscience. That's why this moment feels bigger than just Jeep. It feels like a test case for the entire future of the auto market. Dealerships are already feeling the tremors of this shift. Jeep's announcement isn't just about new models, it's about changing how those models are sold. By undercutting Tesla's prices while offering hybrid options alongside full EVs, Jeep is putting massive pressure on its dealer network to adapt. That means more EV infrastructure in showrooms, service departments retooling for high-voltage repairs, and salespeople learning how to pitch electric drivetrains to customers who still love the roar of a combustion engine. For decades, dealerships thrived on upselling gas models, with hefty pricing strategies across the industry may also shift overnight. If Jeep can really deliver a 600 horsepower electric SUV with premium interiors and 400 miles of range for less than what Tesla charges for a Model Y performance, then suddenly Ford's Mach-E, GM's Blazer EV, and Hyundai's Ioniq 5 start looking overpriced. And when one major automaker forces prices down, the rest are often dragged into a race they can't afford to lose. That's why analysts are calling this Jeep bombshell the spark that could ignite a new price war, a war where hybrids and EVs get cheaper faster than anyone predicted. And while that sounds like a win for consumers, it could spell disaster for automakers already drowning in debt. Then there's the political angle. Governments around the world are closely watching moves like this because EV adoption isn't just a business story, it's a policy battlefield. In the US, where debates rage over EV tax credits and infrastructure bills, Jeep's hybrid-first strategy could appeal to lawmakers who see hybrids as a more realistic stepping stone than full EVs. In Europe, Jeep's decision to prioritize full electrics aligns perfectly with aggressive emissions targets, giving them leverage in one of the toughest regulatory markets on the planet. And in developing regions, Jeep's decision to keep efficient combustion engines in the mix may curry favor with governments that can't yet support mass EV adoption. In other words, Jeep didn't just design a new SUV, they designed a global political strategy, one that could put rivals at a disadvantage in multiple markets simultaneously. But the deeper question is this: can Jeep balance all of these fronts at once? Because this isn't just about cars, it's about winning on pricing, winning on technology, winning in dealerships, and winning in politics all at the same time. Few brands have ever attempted to juggle this much at once, and even fewer have succeeded. If Jeep pulls it off, it will cement itself as the blueprint for legacy automakers navigating the EV revolution. If it fails, though, it could end up as one of the biggest cautionary tales in automotive history. Culturally, this moment might be even bigger than the products themselves. Jeep has always been more than just a brand, it's been an identity. For many owners, driving a Jeep wasn't about commuting from point A to point B, it was about belonging to a tribe. The Jeep Wave, the endless customization options, the off-road meetups, this culture turned Jeep into something closer to Harley-Davidson on four wheels than just another carmaker. But with electrification entering the mix, Jeep seems to think it can redefine that identity. Instead of focusing on the growl of an engine, they're pushing the idea of silent power, crawling over rocks with instant torque, crossing streams without exhaust bubbles, and driving deep into trails without disturbing nature with noise or fumes. For environmentalists and a younger audience, this reimagining of Jeep culture could be revolutionary. Imagine a generation of Jeep owners who brag not just about their lift kits and mud tires, but about their solar charging setups, overland-ready battery packs, and the ability to venture off-grid without burning a drop of fuel. It's a bold attempt to shift what Jeep life means, from rugged tradition to sustainable adventure. But this cultural shift also creates a risk. The hardcore faithful, the ones who buy Jeeps because they want the raw, mechanical experience, may see this as watering down the brand. To them, a Jeep without the rumble of an engine isn't a Jeep at all. If those loyalists walk away, Jeep could lose the very soul that carried it through decades of market turbulence. That's why this gamble is so fascinating. Jeep isn't just betting on technology or pricing. It's betting it can rewrite its own cultural story without losing the essence that made it iconic. And this is where the stakes get massive, because brand loyalty in the auto industry is priceless. Once lost, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. If Jeep manages to pull its diehards into this new era while attracting fresh, younger buyers who see the brand as modern, eco-conscious, and adventurous, then Jeep could solidify a cultural dominance that rivals like Ford and Toyota can't touch. But if it stumbles, if it alienates one group without winning the other, then Jeep risks becoming a brand adrift, caught between two worlds and belonging to neither. If Jeep's gamble works, it won't just change Jeep, it could change the very definition of what an SUV is supposed to be. For decades, SUVs have been locked in an identity tug-of-war. Are they rugged machines built for adventure, or family haulers designed for school runs and grocery trips? Automakers tried to play both sides, pumping out soft odors that looked tough but rarely left the pavement. Jeep was one of the few brands that kept its heritage intact. But now, with electrification at the center, Jeep is blurring that line in a way that forces the entire market to react. If buyers see an electric Wagoneer S as both a family SUV and a high-performance, eco-conscious adventure vehicle, then the old categories of utility versus comfort or rugged versus refined start to collapse. Other automakers will be forced to follow that blueprint or risk being seen as outdated. Imagine a future where every major SUV, whether it's from Hyundai, Toyota, or even Tesla, is expected to be capable, luxurious, efficient, and sustainable all at once. That's the standard Jeep is trying to set right now. And think about the ripple effects this could have on consumer psychology. For years, EVs have been framed as either luxury status symbols or eco-friendly commuter cars. Jeep is trying to shatter that box and rebrand EVs as lifestyle machines, vehicles that expand your freedom instead of limiting it. If that message resonates, it could trigger a cultural redefinition of EV ownership. No longer just about saving money on gas or reducing emissions, but about tapping into a new kind of adventure. That's not just marketing, it's cultural engineering. Globally, the shockwaves could be even bigger. In Europe, where regulations are tightening and EV adoption is surging, Jeep could steal market share from premium brands like Land Rover and Audi by offering rugged EVs that still feel authentic. In emerging markets, where affordability and durability matter most, Jeep's flexible hybrid combustion strategy could set a new standard others are forced to copy. And in the US, where the SUV is practically a national symbol, Jeep's move could permanently alter what Americans expect from the vehicles they park in their driveways. This is why the industry is shaking. Jeep hasn't just announced a product, it has thrown down a challenge to every automaker: evolve or get left behind. And if history is any guide, the companies that fail to adapt to cultural shifts don't just lose sales, they vanish. The stakes here aren't just about who sells the most SUVs next year. They're about who gets to define the future of the automobile itself. Long term, the consequences of Jeep's bombshell could be nothing short of seismic. Right now, the auto industry is in a fragile state of balance. Traditional giants like Ford, GM, and Toyota are trying to walk a tightrope between their profitable combustion lineups and the uncertain future of EVs. New players like Tesla, Rivian, and BYD are betting everything on full electrification, hoping that sheer momentum will carry them past the old guard. But Jeep's move slices right down the middle of that divide. By pushing electrification aggressively while still keeping hybrids and combustion in play, Jeep may have created a third path, one that forces every other automaker to rethink their strategies from the ground up. If Jeep's bet pays off, competition will accelerate at breakneck speed. Ford won't be able to delay hybrid Broncos. GM won't be able to rely solely on Ultium hype. Toyota will have to prove its cautious approach wasn't just foot-dragging. And Tesla? For the first time, it might be forced to play defense instead of offense. Because if Jeep proves that legacy brands can deliver EVs that are just as exciting, more affordable, and culturally resonant, then Tesla's aura of inevitability starts to crack. In that world, the EV revolution isn't led by Silicon Valley startups, it's led by Detroit and its global allies. Technology development could also warp under this pressure. Jeep's focus on range-extending hybrids and rugged-capable EVs may push the entire industry to prioritize durability, torque, and off-road capability in electric drivetrains. Battery chemistries might shift toward packs that can handle extreme conditions, fast charging in remote areas, and longer lifespans for adventure-ready vehicles. Automakers that have been designing sleek city EVs may suddenly need to engineer SUVs that can survive deserts, mountains, and swamps. That means billions in R&D being redirected, not toward luxury sedans or hypercars, but toward practical, rugged, mass-market SUVs. And then there's the balance of power among global automakers. Right now, China dominates battery production and EV scaling, with BYD leading the charge. Europe is dictating emissions rules that force everyone to comply. The US is caught in a tug-of-war between protecting its combustion jobs and chasing the EV future. Jeep's strategy, if successful, could reposition Stellantis and, by extension, Jeep as a global power broker. By tailoring different models for different regions, they could eat market share on 3 continents simultaneously, destabilizing rivals who are stuck with one-size-fits-all approaches. In other words, Jeep isn't just playing for survival, it's playing for dominance. And that's why this moment feels so dangerous and thrilling at the same time. Because if Jeep delivers, we could witness a total reshaping of the auto hierarchy, one where the definition of an SUV, an EV, and even a carmaker itself is rewritten in Jeep's image. But if it fails, the fallout could be catastrophic not just for Jeep, but for Stellantis, its dealers, and even the broader market that's now being forced to react. Fast forward 5 to 10 years. And we're staring at 2 dramatically different futures, one where Jeep's gamble cements it as the king of SUVs in the electrified era, and another where its bold bet leaves behind nothing but wreckage. In the first scenario, Jeep pulls it off. The Wagoneer S lives up to the hype, the Wrangler 4Z becomes the blueprint for hybrid off-roaders, and the global strategy pays dividends in every region. Jeep manages to keep its loyalists on board while attracting an entirely new wave of young buyers who see it as both adventurous and sustainable. By 2030, Jeep isn't just a strong brand within Stellantis, it's the crown jewel, leading sales across the globe. In this future, competitors scramble to keep up. Ford's Bronco becomes a niche player. Toyota's hybrids look outdated. Tesla loses ground in the SUV space. Jeep becomes the new benchmark, the brand everyone else copies, and the company that finally proved heritage and electrification can coexist without compromise. But in the second scenario, things unravel quickly. The Wagoneer S launches with bugs, range doesn't meet promises, pricing creeps upward, and production delays frustrate customers. The Wrangler loyalists reject the electrified push, clinging to older combustion models or defecting to competitors. Dealers, weighed down by thin margins and costly infrastructure investments, begin to revolt. Wall Street loses patience with Stellantis as losses mount, and what was once seen as a bold leap forward becomes a textbook case of overreach. In this version of the future, Jeep doesn't just stumble, it risks dragging down Stellantis as a whole, forcing desperate cost-cutting, layoffs, and maybe even mergers just to survive. The truth, of course, will probably land somewhere between these extremes. But what's undeniable is that Jeep has forced the entire market into a new phase. The days of cautious rollouts and half-hearted EV experiments are over. From this point forward, automakers will have to take bigger risks, move faster, and rethink what their brands actually stand for in a world that demands both performance and sustainability. Jeep lit the fuse, and now the entire industry is bracing for the explosion.